going to talk a little bit about how to use writing and why you should use writing to improve your thinking. So I would credit much of the success I've had, to whatever extent I've had success, to learning how to write and to practicing writing. And the reason for that is that without writing, it's very hard to freeze your thinking on paper so that you can sharpen it, so that you can see where, for instance, you're using words that aren't well defined, where you're saying things that don't need to be said. All of this will help everything else. I remember in college, for instance, when I took a class with John McPhee, an incredibly gifted writer and teacher, all of my grades in every other class went up because every extraneous bit of information that was hurting instead of helping me was taken out. So to sharpen the saw, a couple of different approaches. Number one is write anything whatsoever, stream of consciousness, essay, doesn't really matter. Let's just call it 1 to 3 pages, something along the lines of morning pages. And Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way, popularized this. And there are a number of folks like Brian Koppelman, very well-known writer, screenwriter, co-creator of the show Billions, swears by morning pages. So that is an easy way to ease into the practice of just moving a pen. I recommend freehand so that you can see your thinking on paper. That accomplishes 2 things. Number one, it takes the anxieties and nebulous worries in your head, puts them down in a freeze frame so that you can kind of trap them in the printed form so you can get on with the rest of your day. The second thing it does is it allows you to see where you are sharp and where you are dull in your thinking. Now, if you are drafting, as I do, for instance, right now, once a week, writing, if you are looking for a proofreader, and you do need a proofreader, if you can't find a professional writer, because we can't all find professional writers, talk to friends who have any type of legal training. Or you could even hire a lawyer to do this, or a paralegal, someone with a law degree. They are trained to look at language very, very carefully, because in a dispute, in a negotiation, in a disagreement, arbitration, it's going to come down to the wording of contracts. And I have found that when I do not have access to professional writers, it is oftentimes just as good or even better to get lawyers or people with legal training to read my writing. So that would be a workaround that I accidentally discovered that is very powerful. Few things to keep in mind when you are then doing revisions, because writing is in fact rewriting. You're going to vomit out your first 1 or 2 pages, and my mantra of sorts, which I borrowed from someone else who is a career ghostwriter, is 2 crappy pages per day. And very often you're going to exceed that and then write more, but so that you set the game up in a way that is winnable, 2 crappy pages is your minimum. And it can be just brain vomit. It can be worthless, but you got to get 2 pages, all right? Once you have those 2 pages, you can approach revision in a few different ways. And you can revise yourself, say in 3 rounds, like my friend Neil Strauss, who I think has 7 or 8 New York Times bestselling books at this point. When he does his first edit, he edits for himself, all right? So he's editing just for his pleasure, for his enjoyment, for what he thinks is good. Then the second round of edits, he will edit for his fans, the people he thinks will really love this material. The third round is for the critics, the people who try to tear it apart, to find little niggly points that they could twist and so on. And that can be a helpful framework for revising. What I do with proofreaders, and you can do this also with people who are not trained writers at all, and in fact you should have some lay people, so to speak, people who are not writers as a craft. Very simply, what I will ask people to do is read and highlight anything. This could be in a Google Doc, a Word doc, on paper, that is confusing. People can like what you write, they can dislike it, they can love it, they can hate it, but it should not confuse anybody. All right, so the first thing I will do is I'll ask people, just highlight anything that is confusing or unclear. All right, that's step 1. Anyone can do that. The next is, if you notice your mind wandering while you're reading this, please note that. All right, so if something is slow, maybe it can be taken out, note where your mind starts wandering. All right, the dictum there is, when in doubt, take it out. Just be like, I don't know if I should keep this or not. Take it out, at least as an experiment. The other question that I pose to proofreaders, because you can train people to be very good proofreaders, is the 10% rule. And it's not really a rule, but a guideline that I like to use. So I'll say, please indicate the 10% I should keep no matter what. If there is 10% that I should keep no matter what. What is the strongest 10%? Like, if there's 10% I have to keep, please indicate that. And if I had to cut 10% or even 20%, in some cases I'll ask people, please indicate what you would cut. If you had to cut something, even if this is an essay or a blog post that is a page or two long. And what you'll find if you approach writing systematically in this way and revision systematically in this way is your cognition, your analysis, your awareness of how you use words, how you use explanation, how you use questions will become so much sharper that it will transcend this type of exercise and begin to positively affect just about everything in your life. So for fulfillment, for excitement, for professional success, for personal success, I find writing to be arguably the most important practice. Good luck.